Can you hear? She's trying to see if she can hear, I think. But just like all of a sudden my screen changed and all I saw was an ear and I was like, whoa. Let's see, she probably has got to figure out. So we had the sign for weather. And then our next sign is going to be the sign for sun and sunny. We didn't do these last week, correct? We did. I thought, I'm sitting here going, wait, I thought we did sun and sunny last week. Because I remember talking about the rays, it's hot. Okay. And we talked about tornado and hurricane. Because we did, that's right, because we did the hurricane, because I was talking about the eye and I like figured out I can make that motion. Okay, so we did do those. Okay. If you can tell, Miss Katie and I are both ready for summer vacation. So, okay. Because I was sitting here, I was like, as I did weather, I was like, did we really not do weather? I was sitting there questioning myself because I was like, this feels very familiar like last week. So that was my bad. Okay. And then let's go ahead with the food signs then. Let me pull up that list. Let's see. Miscellaneous. Let's see. Aha, found it. Okay. So in the science for food, I like to warn everybody you're going to be hungry by the time we're done. Because it literally makes you think of all the food. And if you haven't had dinner yet or had a snack, you will be starving, which I will be. So we will all suffer together and then immediately go and eat our food. All right. The first time we're going to do is the sign for food. And so the sign for food itself is food, food, food. And this one, it is important to double tap because that is, I'll explain in a minute. So food is two taps. Okay. The sign for eat is one tap. Okay. So food, eat. All right. That is a common occurrence you will see with a couple of other signs here and there. Another example is like chair and sit, chair, sit. And the reason for that is I always like to visualize it with when it's a double tap, that is like the noun itself, and the one time is the verb. Okay. That's like the visual I have. That's what I make my connection with this the one time because when you're eating, it's not like you have your food and you go boop, 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 and you just keep tapping your mouth. You put it in, you eat it once. If that makes sense. So verb versus the noun. Okay. All right. The next one we have is the sign for fruit. So the sign for fruit is you're going to have an F. You're going to put it at the corner of your mouth and go fruit. 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 Okay. So then the next sign for our next food is going to be our app. We're starting with the fruit. We typically go by topic. I'll give you the topic and go through the specifics. So the first fruit we're going to do is apple. So the sign for apples, you have an X and you're going to put it in the corner of your mouth, kind of that same spot with fruit and go apple, apple. Okay. And Miss Katie sent out the color videos a couple weeks ago. So if you wanted to say you wanted a red apple or green apple, that's you would just add red apple, green apple. Okay. The next one then is going to be orange. And orange is just like the actual sign for color orange, which is orange. And I know y'all are probably like, well, duh, it's orange and orange. It makes sense. Listen, okay, there are some signs that will be either the same word or have like the same thing, like same spelling or whatnot, and they have different meanings, so it changes. Like running, like run, cannot spell with my right hand. That one has so many different signs just on its own. I have to run to the office. I have to run to go on a run this afternoon. Those kinds of things changes every time. So that's why I say with orange, it does luckily say the same. So orange. Okay. We'll do one more before we go back to our we go review. The next one we have is strawberry. And so for strawberry, you're going to have a thumbs up and you're going to put your thumb on your chin. Strawberry. Okay. Strawberry. So the important thing to know with this one is you do want to make sure you're like touching your chin and not do the back of your thumb like this, okay? It is touching. The reason why is because this is private. Private, confidential, things like that versus strawberry. And that can be a very confusing conversation, which I have had before. I was learning and I kept flipping my private and confidential, and I was saying I don't like. I was trying to say strawberries, and I went privacy, and they're like, "What?" And I was like, "Strawberries, strawberries." I'm so sorry. That's what I meant. Strawberries. I don't like strawberries. I'm not a big strawberry girl. So that one will flip on you. Okay. So let's go back. We had the sign for food, which was food, food. We had eat, eat. We had fruit, fruit. We had apple, apple. Then we had orange, orange. And then strawberry, strawberry. Okay. Now, I have to add this little story in here because I think it's really cool just to see how things can change. So, I don't think we've talked too much about this yet. Typically, is when we start with talk about food that this is when this comes up. So, just like there is in typical English, there are regional signs. So, sometimes, like for example, in the South, we say ain't and y'all. You may not see that up north. Or, we say, Coke or soda, and they say pop, whichever Midwest, I think. Those different slight things, exact similar things happen in ASL, which I don't know about y'all, but I find that fascinating. I'm like, tell me more. So, one of my favorite things I always think about is the word strawberry and how many different signs strawberry has, depending on where you're at. Okay. There's strawberry here. I've also seen strawberry with an F on like the nose, like strawberry. And then I've seen strawberry. I mean, so many different, and those are just from the US. Those are not different like countries. No, 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 no. That's like one state over, like in Tennessee or North Carolina. I mean, it's really cool to see. And like when you're talking to someone, most of the time they will catch it like this, like on the context. Oh yeah, my favorite ice cream flavor is strawberry. They'll catch on and they may go, strawberry? And you'd be like, yeah. And they're like, we signed strawberry. So it's always fun. That's like one of my favorite ones to ask anybody that I meet that's from out of the States. Like, what's your sign for strawberry? And I will finger spell it. I refuse to show them mine first. I want to see what they say. Um, so some signs do kind of depend regionally where you're at. That also can be, which I know we're not doing animals tonight, but when we do animals next week, you'll notice there are some signs that may be more common we see here, but maybe up north they don't see that can also relate to things like food wise that we don't see as often. That we may fingerspell here, but they have developed a sign up north because they do see it more often, they do use it or eat it more often. That is something I've also seen kind of happen too. So it's always kind of interesting to see. Okay, now back to our fruit. So the next fruit we're going to have is the sign for grapes. And so the sign for grapes is you're going to have your non-dominant flat. Your dominant is going to be in this five, slightly bent, not full on bent, but slightly. And there are two ways you can do it. You are going to tap on the back of your hand going up, or you can tap on your wrist coming down. Okay, either one. Strawberry. Grapes. I have strawberries on the brain, and I don't even like them. Grapes or grapes. The visual for this is these are your vines that hold the grapes, and then you're making the little dots on them as they speckle along it. Okay. The next one we have is banana. So the sign for banana is you're going to have a pointer finger, and then you peel the banana. Very nice and simple. It helped a lot when I was learning ASL and I was telling people my favorite fruit was a banana because I didn't have to worry too much about memorizing the sign, like strawberry. I was gonna be like banana. That's my favorite. So, all right, so let's see. Our next one is going to be a peach. And so the sign for peach is peach, peach, peach. And this is because of the peach fuzz. Okay. This is also the sign for experience. All right. So if you've experienced something. And again, context clues are what's going to help you in that conversation. So if you're talking about my favorite fruit and you say peach, they're gonna know you're not talking about an experience, you're talking about a peach. I feel like some people typically will ask me a lot of questions like, well, how are you supposed to? And I say this all the time. Context clues are literally your best friend in that. And it kind of takes a moment, I think, for some people because it's just like that's such a different thing than what we're used to, where we have so many different words for different things and all this. We also have too much vocabulary in ASL in English. We have too much, okay? We have 20 words to mean the same thing here, but then we have one word for here that has 20 different meanings, the whole thing. And so context clues really do become your best friend. And the more you like receptively practice, the more you'll catch that you'll notice. Um, I mean, even with me, it's like for things like amazing and wonderful, fantastic, it's all the same sign, this kind of deal. And I'll catch it, and depending on how the context is, I'll know if it's, I can even recognize if it's the difference between being like, well, this is amazing or this is fantastic. And really, it's not that big of a difference, anyways. So, context clues will be your best friend. I can guarantee it. So, all right, our next one is going to be lemon. And so the sign for lemon is you're going to have an L. You're going to put that thumb in the corner of your mouth again and go lemon. 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 Okay. All right. Let's go. No, we'll do this one more and then we'll review only because we're about to start a new topic. All right. The last one we're going to do is a tomato. Now, I know Miss Katie is not on screen right now. They're driving back from a trip. But this one always gets her because tomato does not technically have its own sign. It is two signs put together. And as someone who loves tomatoes, it's very upsetting. I am not a tomato fan, so I was like, you know what? Rightly justified. I don't care for tomatoes. They shouldn't have their own sign. So the sign for tomato is going to be the sign for red and the sign for slice put together. Okay. So it goes red, and then you'll have your non-dominant, this like flat O, and you're gonna go slice, slice. So it's like you literally are slicing it up. So red slice, red slice. Red slice. I do think it's interesting that that one literally got nothing. It got two words put together for it. Okay, so let's go back. We had grapes. So grapes or grapes, either way, grapes. Banana, banana. Peach, peach. Lemon, lemon. And then our tomato, tomato, tomato. I do apologize if any of y'all are big tomato fans and also were insulted by that. I always say that, but you know. Okay. Our next is we're going to move on to our vegetables. So the sign for vegetable, it's going to be with a V, and you go vegetable, vegetable. Okay. The first vegetable we're going to do is the sign for corn. I have seen two ways to sign it, okay? So the first one I'm going to show you before I explain it because I think it's hard to show or explain, and it's corn, corn. So it's like you want to visual, like I have the cob, like it's my finger is the cob, and I'm turning it as I eat it. Corn, corn, corn. Now, the other one is corn, corn. So it's like baby C's and sliding across. Corn, corn. Some people don't like to use this one, and I feel it's because it does look similar to like if you're brushing your teeth. Did you brush your teeth? Because it's very similar. But I do actually see this one more often. While I see some people are like, oh, brush teeth, corn can look confusing. I do see this one a bit more often than I do see this one. So, food for thought. The next one we're going to do is the sign for potato. This one is probably one of my favorite because there's so many different little signs you do with potatoes. All right, so the main sign for potato is you're going to have your non-dominant fist. Your dominant is going to be in a V, slightly bent fingers, and you put it on top. Potato, potato, potato. Okay, this sign can also be for potato chips. So that has the same sign. And so if there's ever, I don't know, I always visualize this. If you're at a picnic, you know, if you're talking about having a steak and potatoes, most of the time you're going to understand you're talking about a potato. Not talking about chips. Most people don't have steak and chips together, that sort of thing. Or if it's hot dogs and potatoes, it would be more hot dogs and chips kind of deal. But for ever those occasions where you have potatoes and potato chips, I always recommend what I would do is do potatoes and then do potato chips. So you finger spell chips, just to clarify on that. That usually will help you with kind of showing. But if you're talking about you want some like chips, can I have some chips? This works. Potato chips works too. Okay. So the next is going to be then French fries. So the sign for French fries is you're going to have an F and you're going to go French fries. French fries. So I think of the visual of you pick up a French fry and you dip it in the ketchup. French fries. French fries. French fries. Okay? The next one we have is then sweet potato. So sweet potato is going to still be potato, but we're going to add the sign for sweet before it. So the sign for sweet is sweet. 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 And this one wow, that did not make sense. Also means when you're talking about someone being sweet versus, oh, that is really sweet. Also is sugar, any of that kind of context, that one does kind of keep on its own. Okay, so sweet potato is how you would say it. Sweet potato, sweet potato. Okay. All right. And then I'm gonna add this here because it's just not, I mean, some people like it, some people don't. Purple potatoes. Any kind of things like those that have like those different colors, you would just add the color. Purple potatoes. Purple potatoes. I grew up on having some of those occasionally, so that's why I always think about purple potatoes because they are quite yummy. So, all right. Let's go back because we did do a lot of signs for that one. So we had vegetable, vegetable, vegetable. Think about the V for vegetable, and it's that same motion as fruit. So fruit, vegetables. Okay. Then we had corn, 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 or corn. I know someone's already going, I ain't doing this one. I'm doing this one. I got you. And that is A-okay. All right. The next one we had is potato. So potato. Potato, you can tap it once or potato or potato one time or two times. Does not really matter too much. At least that's not what I've seen. Then we had our French fries, French fries, French fries, and then our sweet potato. Sweet potato. Okay, sweet potato. All right. So the next one we're going to do is cabbage slash lettuce. And so for this one, I've seen one sign much more often than I've seen this one, but I'm still going to give this more as an exposure just so you guys know that if you saw it, that could be a case. All right. So the sign for cabbage slash lettuce is you're going to have your five, kind of bring your fingers together, and you're going to slightly bend them and bend your wrist back. It's a little bit of a weird position. Yeah. Yep. Perfect. You're going to bring the base of your palm carefully on the side of your head. Do not hurt yourself, just a nice little tap. Cabbage, lettuce. The visual for this is like a head of lettuce. And these are all the like little leaves on top. So that's why head of lettuce. So cabbage, lettuce. Okay. Now, the second one I've seen is when some people are trying, not some people, but when I've seen it be more of that English where they're trying to be more specific and they go the lettuce with the L, lettuce. Like I said, I don't see this one often. I think I've seen it like once or twice and that's it. I do typically see this one more for cabbage and lettuce. So, but just in case. All right. Our next one is going to be a pickle. And so pickle is going to be, well, actually, I always do this. We're going to pause. We're going to do sour first because sour goes into pickle. Okay. So the sign for sour slash tart is sour. Sour. So it's pointer finger and you turn it. Sour. Sour. And you do typically kind of have that pursed lips with it, like, ooh, that was sour. Sour. Okay. So then when you have pickle, it's going to be that P, but really it's a K. Your middle finger is going to come to the corner of your mouth and go pickle. 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 Okay, pickle. So we had our pickle, we had our sour slash tart. And then we have, which I love to add this because it just, I know it throws a wrench, is candy. So candy sour, tart are very similar. Candy, sour, tart. I typically differentiate by my facial expressions. If I'm talking about being something sour, I'm like, ooh, I visualize eating a warhead. I don't know if any of y'all have ever had a warhead, but how my lips just want to curl. They cannot handle it. I do that basically. It's like, ooh, that's sour. And then with candy, I kind of have a more happier smile because candy is fun and yummy. So candy. I have seen some people use candy where they have that pointer finger, the thumbs out, and they brush candy. Candy. I've seen that for candy as well, a few times. So candy's an interesting one. I always think with the sour and tart. Someone asked me how would you sign sour candy? And how I would do it is I would go candy, sour. So like I would do candy and then I would just like pretend like I literally just ate a warhead. Sour. That's how I would describe it. Facial expressions are important, y'all. I don't know if I've talked about this enough or if I have, but your facial expressions are going to help you so much like you don't even know. Now, if you're someone who's a little more reserved, does not really show a lot of emotion in your face, that's totally fine. That's not meaning to say that you're never going to be able to be understood. You just may want to make sure you add some clarifying like comments like, ooh, like make a little bit or even just try to separate better to make sure you're understood. Um, I was very fortunate of I show every emotion on my face. I do not hide anything, especially now with teaching deaf kids. It does not, it's just made it so much worse. I get caught faster on things with like with my parents. Like if I'm like talking with my mom or dad and I'm like annoyed by someone sitting next to us, I'm like, that my mom would be like, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, that's right, you caught my face. I didn't hide that. So it is a blessing and a curse. All right. The next one we're going to do is the sign for spicy. So we moved away obviously from our vegetables and we're moving into kind of our like hot, cold, spicy, those sort of things. So the sign for spicy is going to be have your dominant hand slightly bent. You're going to have it away from your like kind of in front of your mouth and you're going to wiggle your fingers back and forth. All right. This visual is the visual is, goodness me, is I always think about those cartoons that you know when they eat like a hot pepper and then the flames are coming out of their mouth. It's like the flames are like attacking the tongue. Like, oh, that is burning, spicy. Ah, that sort of thing. Flames or flames. Goodness me, spicy. Okay. Now, if you were to turn it and do it this way, going out, this is dragon. Okay. Yeah, I always love to add that one. I'm sorry. I have to. Whenever we do spicy, I'm like, no, spicy and dragon must be together because they are the same sign, just one way or the other. So yeah, dragon, which obviously I think that does not need an explanation. I think it makes sense, especially when we talked about spicy this way. So, okay. The next one we're going to do is we're going to do the sign for hot. Now, I do want to clarify with hot and spicy. Sometimes in English, you may have noticed, you may have not, is that sometimes we will say hot when we're talking about that spicy. Oh, that's hot. Like that is spicy. That is hot, hot. You would not want to use the sign for hot for that one. So if you're saying something is hot, like it is spicy hot, you would want to use the sign for spicy. Okay, spicy. The sign for hot means actual heat. Like that is, if I touch it, I'm going to burn my hand, that sort of thing. So those you do want to keep separate, just for that clarification. So the sign for hot, so you're going to have a 5, slightly bent. You're going to have it in front of your face like this, and you're going to go hot, hot, hot. Excuse me, hot, hot. I have no visual for this. I apologize. Or no explanation. Good little mindset. What help? No, it's just hot. So hot. Okay. And then let's see. Hold on, I was pulling up something. I was pulling up my chat. I saw someone typing. That's what's like, oh, let me pull that chat up. Yes, yes, it does. Exactly. Good. So I don't know if anyone saw it, but they're asking about a temperature of the weather too. So yes, hot for it being hot outside, food being hot, you're feeling hot, anything like that. You can go hot. Some people also just the typical fan, like, whoo, that also still gets its point across as well. So yes, good catch. Okay. The next one we're going to do is the sign for cold. The sign for cold is you're going to have two S's. You turn them sideways and you shake them. Cold, cold. Okay, cold. And this one also can mean talking about if you're cold outside or not. The food, it's cold, or I'm cold. Those both work. That will apply for both. Now, ooh, we'll do one more and then I promise we'll go back because I know we've gone through like a good amount of signs right now. Have not reviewed. The other one was going to say is the sign for frozen because sometimes we say the food is cold, it's frozen, it's not even cooked yet. And so the sign for frozen is also going to be the sign for freeze and froze. All right, they're all going to be the same sign, which is two fives like this, and then you bring them back as you curl your fingers. Freeze, frozen. Mm-hmm. Freeze, frozen. Okay, so that can also describe food. Like my food is frozen. Ooh, I can't eat it yet. All right. Let's go back. So we had our cabbage slash lettuce. So cabbage, cabbage. We then had well, we had sour, sour, sour. Oh, you guys all have such good facial expressions. Sorry, some classes people are very just like straight face, and I'm like, that's fine, that's fine. I looked at every single one of you, all had a good face for that. I was like, yes, I have to get excited on it. Okay, can't help it. Then we had pickle, pickle, pickle. Then we had our candy, candy. Then we had our spicy, spicy, spicy. Then we had dragon, because we had to throw dragon in there. Dragon. Okay. And then we had hot, 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 hot. And then cold, cold, cold. And then frozen, frozen, frozen. Okay. The nice thing is a lot of these also, I feel when it comes to like describing foods like hot, colds, things like that, it's very common sense almost because like it makes sense. Besides hot, actually. I lied. Hot, we don't know. But cold, like whoo, your instinct is when you're cold is already to kind of do this motion. So, all right, now we're gonna go into some entrees. And so the first sign I always like to do with our entrees is pizza. And so for pizza, there are two ways you can do it. The first one is, I'm going to show it first because it is always hard to describe it. It's pizza, pizza. So it's like my hand is bent. It's almost like I'm holding a slice of pizza and then I bring it to my mouth. Pizza. I don't typically eat my pizza this way. It's more pizza, but that's fine. It's whatever. I guess everyone else eats it this way. Pizza, pizza. The other way is you have two fingers, pinky go down. Sorry, it was like sticking out like that. And you're gonna bend it, and then you go the Z motion, Z. And this is just because it's almost showing like the two Z's in the pizza, pizza, pizza. Excuse me. I typically see this one more than I see this one. Okay. But I do see them quite a bit. I do see equal on those. Not equal, but I see them more often. All right. The next sign is the sign for salad. Okay. So the sign for salad is you're going to have two fives slightly bent and you just bring them together. I don't know if any of y'all have ever gone to Olive Garden, like way back when they used to mix the salads in front of you. I think about those big wooden utensils they would use and they would toss the salad like this. That's the motion, salad. Okay. The more specific you get on a salad, the more you may have to fingerspell. Like a Caesar salad, you would fingerspell Caesar. No, I didn't even spell it right. You know what? It's fine. It's Cseal. Oh my gosh. Teacher Tired cannot fingerspell to save my life right now. See, I have to finish it now. Okay, there we go. I had to watch my hand do it. So Caesar salad, fingerspelling that, or those different fancy ones like Southwest, any of those you would probably want to fingerspell salad the salad just to clarify on it. Some people do add like for example a house salad when people say house salad. Some people do like house salad. Um and while technically you can, I have seen it, I have done it before. I have to warn you, someone may tease you on it, okay? I've been teased before where they're like, "Oh, you make the salad at your house?" And I'm like, no, I want a house salad." And they're like, "Oh, but it's at your house. So you have to get it at your house, right?" Like, Guys, you don't even know how the jokes work. It's a whole thing. I've gotten teased on also. I accidentally said wash my car. Um, this is washer machine, like wash. And so they're like, "Oh, your car is small enough to fit inside the washer machine." And I was like, you knew what I meant. They're like, but you signed wash your car. And I was like, wash. Okay, is that better? And they're like, mm-hmm. Oh, they can be so sarcastic. Okay. It's really fun, but man, they will, if they think if they've caught you missign, they will tease with you on it. And it's most of the time it's not out of like bad like judgment. It's more just like a joking way. But I have to warn you, okay? Because if you did house salad, I could see someone going, you made that at your house? Like that, what's up with that? So, but anyways. The next one we're going to do is the sign for hamburger. And so the sign for hamburger is going to be, you're just going to have those two fives again, basically, and you go hamburger. It's like you're making the patty. You're forming the patty, okay? Hamburger. Then for cheeseburger, all you're going to do is add the sign for cheese. So the sign for cheese is you're going to have your non-dominant. Okay, I always have to check because I always will say my thumb down, but then later I will catch myself with it up anyways. It really doesn't make too big of a difference if your thumb is up or down. I just try not to confuse y'all when I change up. So your dominant, non-dominant is sideways. Your dominant is in that slightly bent shape, almost like what we did with our cabbage again. And you're going to put the palm here and then shake it. Cheese, cheese. Okay. And this is all kinds of cheese. So this is not a specified cheese. If you're talking about fancy cheese like Parmesan, no, well, not fancy, but different specific types of cheese, Parmesan, mozzarella, Gouda, you would finger spell. There is not a different sign for every single fancy type of cheese. Maybe at a fancy place where all they do is cheese, they may have their own little signs for it, but for the public, no, it's just cheese. Okay? So when we're trying to do cheeseburger, you would do cheeseburger. 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 Okay? Then the next one we have is the sign for fish. Fish is just pretty much general with this. So there are two ways you can do it. There is the sign for fish, which is where you have your dominant flat five kind of sideways. Your non-dominant is a pointer pointing at the base, and then you go fish, 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 fish. Okay. The other one is without the pointer finger, fish, fish. Either way works. Again, it's kind of just a preference. I like to switch it up sometimes depending on what exactly I'm talking about. Sometimes I do it when I'm talking about like food. Sometimes I do it when I'm talking about going to see fish. Either way, because that is talking about the cooking and eating of fish, and then the also fish of animals. That one does go for both. Okay. Then the next one we have is spaghetti slash pasta. And so for that, you're going to have two pinkies. You're going to kind of have the pinkies together, and then you're going to spiral out. Pasta slash spaghetti. Okay. With that one, I almost think of it more often with spaghetti. So if someone says, "Oh yeah, I had for dinner last night," I typically do think of that as spaghetti. For pasta, like if you're talking about just like pasta carbonara or something like that. That's typically like you would finger spell, you would sign pasta and then go carbonara. That usually helps kind of catch it. Or Alfredo, like you go pasta Alfredo. Finger spelling those specifics to help. If it's not a big deal and you're like, I really don't think it's going to make a difference if they know if I had spaghetti or actually Alfredo last night, you don't have to worry about it. But if it is like you feel is pertinent or important to the conversation, I would definitely finger spell just so they know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Let's see. All right. Oh, this one's not on here. Or it might be, no, it's later. Haha, I caught it. Remove it up. The next one we're going to talk about, meat. Entree wise is meat, like steak, um, any kind of things like that. So the sign for meat is you're going to have your non-dominant sideways like this. Your dominant's like in that 8 position again, but now you're going to clip it. Meat, meat, meat. The visual for this is very direct. It is like being in a butcher shop and the meat is hooked and hanging from the ceiling. Meat. Okay, meat. That is any type of meat that you are talking about. So a steak, pork chop, any kind of meat. If you're talking about meat. If you want to be more specific, again, you would probably have to finger spell, or you can add like the animal sign to it. Um, this was a very interesting conversation to have in the very beginning because it was just like the look of like, what? So because sometimes we will use like, oh, we're talking about meat, like pork. We had a pork for dinner. You would meat and like pig, do the sign for pig with it. It's very blunt. It is very blunt. It is very direct. There's no sugarcoating it, but it's also not wrong. It's an interesting conversation, that's for sure. Especially when you have kids that don't realize that hamburger, because it's this, they think they don't know what it means by meat wise, like a cow, and having to explain like a cow, like cow meat, and that, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, and they're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't eat that. And I'm like, that hamburger, yeah, that's what that is. And they're like, I've had a very interesting conversation. And it wasn't just me, it was like two teachers. We literally were chatting, and the kids were trying to say they don't eat meat. And I was like, sweetie, that right there is meat. And they're like, I don't eat cow. And I'm like, that is cow. And they're like, their world changed. Their world changed. But I also feel like we also went through those as kids where we didn't really realize where that came from. And then we're like, what? So yeah, very interesting. Okay. Let's go back through through all our entrees, then we'll move on to our few more that we have. So we had our pizza, 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 or pizza, pizza. Okay. We had our salad, salad, salad. We had our hamburger, hamburger, hamburger. We had our cheeseburger, 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 burger. I did the opposite, and I don't know why that threw me off, but I did. We had fish, fish, or fish. Then we had our spaghetti slash pasta, spaghetti, pasta. And then our meat, 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 meat. Okay? All right. So the next signs we're gonna do are signs for, yeah, we're actually gonna do this first. We're gonna do the three signs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay. And so I typically like to go in reverse of this and go dinner, lunch, and breakfast because dinner and lunch have the similar sign. Breakfast has a slight change to it. Okay. So the first one is the sign for dinner, which is dinner, dinner. So it's a D and you just have it come to your mouth. So D, and then obviously like food. So dinner, excuse me, dinner. Then we have lunch, which is going to be an L, lunch, lunch. Okay. And then for breakfast, there are two ways you can do it. One of them I do always kind of give with a bit of caution. Um, Certain locations and certain like people can know. I almost would say I'm always trying to figure out how to best word this every time I explain about this. Depending on the people you talk with and who you know in that group, if they're going to understand what you mean. So the one that's the questionable sign is breakfast. 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 And the reason for this is because this is also the sign for beer. Yeah, so that one can be a bit confusing and can kind of get confusing on the conversation. It just kind of depends on who you're with and who know, like who, what they see as. Because some people do the sign for breakfast, but then some people also do morning food for breakfast, morning food. Okay. And I mean, you can literally just do a simple morning food, morning food, morning food. Okay. Now, either one I have seen. I do see breakfast a bit more often, but also I work with kids where we kind of try to, shorten things so that way it's just easier for them. Um, but I have seen some others use it as well occasionally. But I typically like to go with morning food just to be safe and clear. Because I don't want them thinking that I had beer for breakfast. That's not what we're trying to go for. Okay. All right. So then the next we're gonna do is some um sorry, my phone is trying to fall and it's like it's my lifeline of my list. If I lose the list, we lose where we are placed wise. We're gonna move on to some desserts for right now. Okay. So the first one we're gonna do is the sign for chocolate because chocolate is yummy and very important. Okay. You're gonna have your non-dominant of fist. Your dominant is in a C, and you're going to make the C go in a circle on the back of your hand. Chocolate. Okay. Chocolate. Now, I always add this also here because I do think this one is it can be a funny little mishap, but I'm just clarifying. So if you got that C and you accidentally tapped it instead of going a circle, this is church, church, church. And that has happened. Also, I've seen that before where someone said, I want chocolate, but they said, I want church. And I think someone made some kind of joke back and they're like, what are you, what? And it's like, chocolate, chocolate. And they're like, oh, chocolate. So it's always funny having those little mishap signs. But so yeah, just I always think about with chocolate, like I know that's not always how it is, but with chocolate swirls, chocolate is like just in a like I think about the chocolate, it's just it's always when they're pouring it, that sort of thing. So chocolate. Okay. The next one is vanilla. And so the sign for vanilla is going to be similar to chocolate, but with a V. Vanilla. 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 Okay. So then, if we're obviously going to be talking about ice cream, because most of the time we talk about chocolate and vanilla ice cream, the sign for ice cream is ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. So very easy. Just makes you think of literally having an ice cream cone. Ice cream. All right. Then we have the sign for cake. Now, the sign for cake does change dependent on kind of a different things. There's a bit of, sorry, not clarifying this. My phone kept falling and I was trying to voice and I was like, that does not work for me. The sign for cake can change a bit, especially just different people have different ways of it. I've seen it quite a bit of different ways. So one of them that I do see quite a bit, or not quite a bit, I use is you have your non-dominant palm up. Your dominant is in this like it's like a C, it's that the fingers are wide. Cake. Cake. Okay, cake. Cake. I have also seen the sign for cake where non-dominant palm is up, and you have that C, and you slide it across cake, 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 cake. Just slide it across cake. Again, like I said, it depends on the person. It depends on who you're talking to. I've also just finger spelled cake. I like to do cupcakes because that one makes me think of cupcakes more because it's a smaller size and smaller thing. Um, and then kind of fingerspell cake if I'm doing like cake, that sort of thing. But again, that kind of just depends on the person, especially because then our next one, cookie. Some people will do this for cookie because it's like a cookie cutter. So that's in always an interesting conversation trying to be like, are you talking about cakes or are you talking about cookies? The other sign for cookie that I do see more often is she'll have like this L. You bend that finger and then you bring it to your mouth. Cookie, 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 cookie. Um, and with that, you can always add chocolate cookie, chocolate cookie. Okay. If you're talking about a specific type of cookie or anything fancy, the more specific you get, the more you may have to fingerspell. But luckily, you can still do lemon cookies, or sugar cookies. You can do those. Trying to think of any other cookies. Orange cookies, if you do that, orange chocolate cookies. You can add those signs. But like I think for ginger cookies or ginger snap kind of deal, I see ginger, just fingerspell and then cookie. So Let's see. So that's our cookie. We had our cake, our cookie, our ice cream. Brownie does not have its own sign. Unfortunately, brownies are fingerspelled. It is very disappointing, and I do not like it. I'm like, brownie deserves a sign. It's very common. I do not understand why we don't have a sign for it. All right. The next one we have for our desserts is pie. Okay. So the sign for pie is you're going to have your non-dominant palm up and you're going to slice it in a sorry, I saw the yes. We've never done peanut butter and jelly. We haven't done sandwich. My gosh, we haven't done sandwich in like classes. Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry. Totally veered off for a minute there. Oh my gosh, and ham. Oh my gosh, sorry. I'm spiraling over here. Totally spiraling. Um, so what we're doing pie. Pie. So pie is you go slice. It's like you're making a triangle on your hand. So pie. Pie. Okay? All right. We are now going to take a little detour, go back to some food because I cannot believe we did not talk about a sandwich when we talked about a hamburger, because those are two different things. So the sign for sandwich is you're going to have two flat hands and you're going to put them together like this. So you want it's almost like you're holding the sandwich and you're going to bring it to your mouth. Sandwich. Sandwich. So turn it where you're there you go. Yeah, sandwich. 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 Okay. So our first one, peanut butter and jelly. All right. So the sign for peanut butter is the sign for peanut and the sign for butter. So the sign for peanut is peanut, peanut. And you do actually typically, you don't have to, but you are basically like flicking your teeth. It's not your lip you're hitting, you're flicking the teeth. Peanut butter, peanut, and then butter, it's the three with the fingers together, and you brush on the base of your palm. Butter, peanut butter, peanut butter, peanut butter. Okay, peanut butter. Okay, so if you're doing a peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter, and then jelly is fingerspell, jelly. And you can go very like I know I didn't slide. I realized I didn't do that. But if you're talking about a peanut butter and jelly and then you start with that J, they're usually going to know you're talking about jelly and they're not going to criticize if you misspell jelly. So, some people will do sandwich PBJ. That also works too, because most of the time we all know what PB and J is. Um, but just in case if they never know, then you can expand on peanut butter and jelly, that sort of thing. Okay. Um, so, oh my gosh, I keep thinking about all the types of sandwiches that are out there, and I'm really shocked that we don't have a spot that's designated for just different sandwiches. Brain is just having a moment over here. For ham, ham and cheese sandwich, I do usually fingerspell ham very fast because it's three letters, ham. So ham, cheese, sandwich. Okay. Um, let's see what other one. Turkey. This one was not on our little list, but it is a thing. So turkey is also going to be the same sign for the meat as it is for the animal. And it is going to be, you're going to have this Q and you bring it under your chin. Turkey, turkey, turkey. Yep. So turkey sandwich, turkey, the animal too. Okay. Let's see. What other sandwiches are there that have signs? Some people have peanut butter and honey sandwiches. S- So all you would do is add the sign for honey. So the sign for honey is have those three, the two again, and you go in a circle motion on your chin. Honey, honey, honey. Okay, honey. So peanut butter and honey sandwich. Um, Trying to think of others. Any other sandwiches you guys can think of since now I'm on a sandwich roll right now? Trying to think. If it's all fancy like a Cuban or a club, you would fingerspell, obviously. But if y'all think of any other sandwich ones, send it because I'm again shocked we did not have a list on this. For gluten-free, typically the way that's fair. Trust me. There's a lot of people that'll be that we've talked about with that. So for gluten-free, typically what I see is just GF. Sandwich GF. Um, but I do also feel that does come from that conversation before and saying like gluten, like finger spelling gluten. Goodness me, I cannot finger spell today. Gluten, and then the sign for free, which the sign for free is you have two F's. You're going to cross them like this and then go out free. Free. So gluten free. Okay. Um, so I typically like I think what I've seen, especially when you're talking to like the same person over and over again, like obviously my coworkers who I talk to on a daily basis, I don't have to finger spell gluten free. I can just go gluten free, like the sandwich is gluten free or things like that sort of deal. And you can also do that with a person you're talking to, where maybe you're saying, gluten free. Like you would just show GF that's what you're talking about, that sort of thing. But that's a good question. I was having to think on it because I don't think anyone's asked about gluten free before. That's why I was like, I've seen it, but I hadn't seen like had people ask me about it. So, let's see. Oh. Yes. Oh my gosh, guys. Why are these words? See, this is why I also like the food and the animal signs because there's just so many and it's impossible to get through them all. But the sign for bread, which I do think is important with gluten-free, because then you're saying gluten-free bread. I'm sure when you keep saying gluten-free, they're like, well, why is this big deal when you're talking about the bread? Okay. Sign for bread, all right, is you're gonna have your non-dominant, that bent shape again, but sideways. Okay. Your dominant is in that similar position, and you're going to make slices along it. Bread, 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 bread. And that is for any type of bread. Um, I have seen some people when they're talking about rolls, they will do the actual sign for roll, like a roll, which is roll, roll, um, which is kind of funny. I like to finger roll rolls. I'll be like bread rolls, that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other bread. I know there's tons of bread. Any fancy kind you're talking about, or need, like you probably do need to specify, like if you're talking about non versus talking about like I can never say the FOCCC, blah 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 blah. The one where you have the little dots in it. I cannot pronounce it. I know it, can't pronounce it. That's my problem. There's struggle with it, so we're not going to even attempt it right now. You would want a finger spell just so it's like it clarifies exactly what type of bread you're talking about. Okay. All right. Let's see. Is there any others I have? Oh, we have drinks. Okay. Let's talk about some drinks and then I'm going to leave it open for any other foods or drink signs that you're curious of. So the signs, I have only a few. I don't have many drink signs, mainly because just kind of keeping it short. Um, And the first one is the sign for water, which we did last week when we talked about a flood, is the exact same sign. So water with that W, the pointer finger comes to the corner of your mouth. Water, water, water. Then we have coffee. So coffee is going to have two S's. You turn them, sorry, I had a bug bite. Turn them sideways and you're going to put them on top and go in a circular motion. Coffee, coffee, like grinding the beans. Okay. Then we have tea. So tea is you're going to make this cup kind of shape, C, with your non-dominant. Your dominant is going to have the 9. And what you do is you're going to circle in it. Tea, tea, okay? You don't want to dip it when you do this. This is vote. So you're not talking about having sweet vote. You're talking about sweet tea. All right. So sweet tea would just be sweet tea. Sweet tea. Okay. And then my last one was soda. So the sign for soda is you're going to have your non-dominant in a fist like this. Your dominant middle finger is going to like kind of not be in, but it's going to be on top. And you're going to flick it up and down. Soda. Soda. It's the motion of like pulling open the tab and then slamming it down. The reason for the slam down is if you shake up a soda can, obviously when you open the tap, it's going to shoot out and it comes down. That's the visual with it. I don't know why that has to be the visual with it because most of the time we're not trying to shake up the soda, but it's soda, soda, soda. Or it could be pop. No, I'm veering off again and I need to not. I will sit here and I will analyze signs and I'm like, I gotta stop. So soda. Okay. When talking about specific kinds of soda like Coke, Pepsi, Fanta, Mountain Dew, any of those, you would finger spell, or even shorthand, because I know like technically Coca-Cola is still just Coke. You know, that one you can just go soda, Coke, um, soda, Sprite. I think for soda and Mountain Dew, I think I've seen MD, soda, MD, Mountain Dew, or they'll go M and then Dew, just finger spell Dew, those sort of things. Again, if anything does not get clear across just finger spelling, it fully does help. And it always is like, it'll be your best friend. The finger spelling helps a lot. So, but yes, so those are the only ones of the drinks I picked, mainly because I think those are ones that we kind of see a little bit more often. So, yeah. Are there any signs of food or drinks that you would like to go over? I know we got 2 minutes and I know we didn't review. That's why I'm gonna leave it for you guys. Any signs you're curious about or want to see again? Anything like that? I know it came down to just the you two, and it's like I know it's like the pressure of like, no. I would be the same way. I'd be like, no, we're good. Janella, are you good? Or is there any more signs?
What about pork chop?
Pork chop. Okay. So I always go with the meat here.
Mhm.
Um, I do like to finger spell pork chop, pork chop. I just think it's a little bit easier and also it's a little bit nicer than doing pork pig. Because I don't like I know I said it, but I was like, I don't even always like doing that one. Like the only time I do that is when I'm talking about like a ham and I'm like pig, when it's very obvious, like this is a hunk of meat. Which I know a pork chop is still can be, especially if you have a pork tenderloin. But I'm like, so I typically do meat, pork, chop. Faster you learn it, the faster you can finger spell it so fast that is like that. But yeah. Okay. All right. If we don't have any other, what we'll do, let's see. We need to do this. We'll do this next week, because we didn't get to tonight, is favorite, how we decide favorite food, but also what to be allergic to. That'll also work because we'll do animals next week, so we can talk about that. Um, excuse me. We will also do, yes, perfect. And then for phrases like I like, I don't like, I want, I don't want, I need, don't need, those sort of things. We will get through next week. I'm gonna even try to, I think, maybe do it in the beginning before we start our animals. Typically, I do it at the end, but I don't want us to run out of time, as I do think those are important sentence phrases to use. So we will do that for next week. And then, yeah, I'm just having to think what class number we're in. We've moved our topics so much this time. I'm like, where are we in this of the weeks right now? I don't know how I've lost my place, but I have. Sad. But I mean, I does not matter to me. I enjoy having these
Okay,
classes.
oh my gosh. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm on Zoom on my phone and it's completely different, and I keep pushing buttons and nothing looks the way it's supposed to. That sounds great, Jillian. We have two more. So we have next week and then we have one after that.
Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. Wow, we
Time
have,
flies. I know.
because I was sitting here going, are we on week 4 or 5? We're not.
Well,
We're
poor
on week
Jillian.
I'm telling you, I'm ready for summer, okay? We are ready to roll. So,
I know.
but I've been enjoying it and I feel like we've done some different things and I always it's what we do every class. I
We
think
always get new signs too.
we
So that's
do.
exciting.
I mean, we had sandwiches. We had a whole topic of sandwiches tonight. We've never done it before. Or we have, but it was only like once or twice and then it gets
Yeah.
so. But anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week and I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye guys.
Bye, everybody.